The Safe House by Sarah Hannah. You don't speak of it, not ever, but you make sure it's always there. The remote, delicious contingency, the hold, the hideout at the end of the narrow, nameless lane with no light, the long back road that twists and forks relentlessly, so that, unless you know the way, you'll never find it, unless your mind happens to work that way. In which case, not only do you know damn well how to get there, could walk it blindly, you simply can't survive without it. A real house, wood frame, cape, unclaimed in any county, book of deeds, unmarked on any lamp, on any map, unrung by doorbell or by phone, a space without title. Just stop. Just think about that for a second. Furnished supply. In the first room, a couch, 2 matching lamps, a hot plate, and a well-stocked bar. Beyond the bedroom and adjoining bath, a closet full of scoop-necked, small-waisted satin dresses, a corset, heeled sandals, stockings. You don't have to plan beyond that. In fact, all you really need's the impetus, and means to get there, both of which involve a man, 2 at most, chosen with great care. Of course, so often they go south, soprano, pull that sucker punch on you, but this time, this one's. A pro, he puts it all together, really comes through. Job, how grand, the larceny. Single, getaway, you just have to wait for the single playing card, King of Diamonds, to appear beneath the door of your apartment in the city, or the phone call where it rings 3 times and then stops dead, the last bell's echo telling it's done, it's all come down, you better scram. Sure enough, there's a guy waiting out back in a black Packard with no plate, engine running, you're gone, and then you're there, allowed, alone. You count the clasps along the corset's lace, 12, a dim attempt to calm, and slip on your best the gold satin number that shimmers in very low light just then in perfect time. There flits that 4-note tune, a whistle, jazz riff, the last note quizzical. He's done away with your unfortunate chauffeur and stands hip-shot at the door, looks you down and up, and grins. I always told you to think of me as your ace in the hole. Although the common meaning of the phrase is lost on you due to lack of poker experience, the image of swift penetration swims pleasantly, warmly to your mind, as ice cracks in the glass of the highball you poured yourself somewhere inside, and he puts both hands on your waist, presses you firmly against the bulletproof wall, grabs the back of your neck and plants one deep, firm kiss. Sure, it's not that big a house, but you've belonged to those before, and always had to run like hell, too much arson, strangulation, broken china, and then of course the corpses, firemen, ambulances, and worse, all those goddamn neighbors gaping. This one's simple, and it's all yours, paid in full, just the right combination of terror and sin, and the sheer exhilaration of the coupling flight, and the man at the end in the dark, a real deadbolt, strong box, cipher, down the hatch, oh love. Just let me curl my finger around this latch and let you in. From Painted Bride Quarterly. Houses by Jerry Harp. They've been around in dreams a long time now. These houses where nobody lives, hidden along stretches of field, accessible if you run alone down dirt and gravel roads. Late in the afternoon when shadows start to sift like sand, I think you'll know the place better than I. Maybe you'll finish this poem. Here's my attempt to hand it over to you. This time, the place, the sound, they fade from me as my pen scratches across the ragged page. And the cat lounges, observing every move. By the time I climb upstairs to sit before my glowing screen, how many years and days will have gone by, but only you will know. Someone is sitting in an upstairs window, head bent beside a desk lamp shining. You knock. No other houses show. There is no answer. You cross the dusty living room. A grove of alder trees, entwined in vines, appears out back on the mantel, a clock without a face. The crickets cry their stridulation from the shade. The nighthawk with its plaintive cry and rush of wings shows up at the right time. Nothing stirs upstairs. You look in every room. The moonlight shines through a far window. Now the poem begins, the anticipated turn. The much-awaited answer from the trees. Here's the moment when translation begins. From Pleiades. Sunday Discordancies by Jim Harrison. This morning I seem to hear the nearly inaudible whining grind of creation, similar to the harmonics of pine trees in the wind. My outrageously lovely hollyhocks are now collapsing of their own weight, clearly too big for their britches. I'm making notes for a novel called The End of Man, and not incidentally Women and Children, a fable for our low living time. Quite early after walking the dogs, who were frightened of the sandhill cranes in the pasture, I fried some ham with a fresh peach, a touch of brown sugar, and a clove. Pretty good, but I was wondering at how the dogs often pretend the sandhill cranes don't exist, despite their mighty squawks, like we can't hear the crying of coal miners and our wounded in Iraq. A friend of us on his deathbed cried and said it felt good. He was crying because he couldn't eat, a lifelong habit. My little grandson Silas cried painfully until he was fed macaroni and cheese, and then he was merry indeed. I'm not up to crying this morning over that pretty girl in the rowboat 55 years ago. I heard on the radio that we creatures have about 1.5 billion heartbeats to use. Voles and birds use theirs fast, as do meth heads and stockbrokers, while whales and elephants are slower. This morning I'm thinking of recounting mine to see exactly where I am. I warned the hummingbird out front to slow down as they chased me away from the falling hollyhocks from 5 Points. Grave Goods by Dolores Hayden. Tang Dynasty camel, painted, earthenware AD 600 to 900. Life flows in the easy stride and flaring tongue of the long-necked, crying camel whose twin humps bear man, boy, monkey, dog, puppy, and pig. The monkey nibbles a plum, the dog lies quiet, the puppy watches the busy monkey chew. Snout down, the pig snores in the noonday heat. As the camels pacing hooves step west, Shangan, Dunhuang, Lapnor, Kashgar, Samarkand behind the driver. The boy sits facing backwards, riding past all the towns with all the souks and all the tents he might have lived and died in. The driver smiles under his wide mustache, confident in the market for fresh almonds, fine silk, and lapdogs. Clever foreigner, wearing a painted cap, he knows the way. He never tires. He is the perfect conductor. In his hands, the trip to places so remote begins to seem almost manageable. And so, the Mingqi sculptor soothed the grief of the dead boy's relatives, conjuring trade to entertain and profit him. And as for you, admiring the wondrous camel here with me, I dread that swaying seat on the camel's back. I would hold you by our fireside, if only I could. From Southwest Review. A house is not a home. It was the night I embraced... Oh, it's right by Terrence Hayes. It was the night I embraced Ron's wife a bit too long, because he'd refused to kiss me goodbye. That I realized the essential nature of sound when she slapped me across one ear and he punched me in the other. I recalled almost instantly the purr of liquor sliding along the neck of the bottle a few hours earlier, as the three of us took turns imitating the croon of the recently deceased Luther Vandross. I decided then, even as my ears fattened, to seek employment at the African American Acoustic and Audiological Accident Insurance Institute, where probably there is a whole file devoted to Luther Vandross, and probably it contains the phone call he made once to ask a niece the whereabouts of his very first piano. I already know there is a difference between hearing and listening, but to get a job I bet I will have to learn how to transcribe church fires or how to categorize the dozen or so variations of gasping, one of which likely includes Ron and me in the 8th grade. The time a neighbor flashed her breasts at us that night at Ron's house, I believed he, his wife, and Luther loved me more than anything. I could grasp. "I can't believe you won't kiss me. You're the gayest man I know," I told him, just before shackling my arms around his wife. My job is all about context, I will tell friends. When they ask, I love it, though most days all I do is root through noise, like a termite with a number on his back. What will I steal? Rain falling on a picket sign, breathy epithets. You think I'm bullshitting. When you have no music, everything becomes a form of music. I bet somewhere in Mississippi there is a skull that only a sharecropper's daughter can make sing. I'll steal the sound. More than anything, I want to work at the African American Acoustic and Audiological Accident Insurance Institute so that I can record the rumors and the raucous rhythms of my people, our jangled history, the slander in our sugar, the ardor in our anger, a subcategory of which probably includes a sound particular to one returning to his feet after a friend has knocked him down. From Kalaloo. The Way of All the Earth by K. A. Hayes. Joshua 23:14. In various ways we'll be taken, fine, except that we know it. And just when we've tricked it away, someone nearby, a sister say or a child, proves it again, as fact more pleasant to be one of those turtles who each September takes a last breath and goes gliding down to the profound mud to wag in for a fine 6 months of anti-meditation. How brown it would be, and more than milky, an opaque shell. Around the shell of the body, any minute who passed, taking the body for rocks that had sat on the bottom for centuries mossing, we would not attend. The last rites of our families, we would be happy as stone until spring, when we swam upwards to catch ducks and our snappers. Oh, unavoidable affront, especially for the old, for whom death's quick mouth darts daily through reed and shallow pool. It snatches from the surface the children and sleek teens of the past. Each month a volley of funerals, leading up to the snap over a webbed foot. When the shelf which quakes and rages is dragged under until it is drowned, better perhaps not to go alone, but to pile instead, like the other turtles, on top of one another in a river's trench, to stay alive by being nearly dead when the winter of dust blustered and whirled 64 million years back. And the great beasts who stalked the land suffered and fell, their bulk heaving the hills. All of that was only a loud game of billiards to the turtles who sank down away from the light and let the arms and legs float in the waters, each belly atop another shell, the skin assuming the work of the lungs, so the lungs, as the earth above wasted and tore, might through that din be still. From the Antioch Review. Mum's the Word by Bob Hycock. The Depression wasn't a good time for birthday cakes. Whatever was around sufficed. In 37 it was an onion, then potato bugs. Everyone passed on the 3-layer cake of gravel. You're 75 today, you can have any cake you want. With 7 kids, a cake of stretch marks. Seems right. Eat what time has done to you. Cake of bad heart, of husband love. If getting older is a test, reaching 100's an A+. I give you, Mom, a solid C. Time's winged defibrillator. I've never asked how old you feel. You are in your pineal gland. My soul image is 17. He runs and runs on liquid legs. For talking purposes, say you're 8 in the mirror of how you see yourself, a veritable punk. So of course you'll die young. I'm right behind you if it helps. And trusting the afterlife's not my problem. Say we become static on the AM dial. Say we wear the silly hats of popes. Say the slogan of eternity is one size fits all. There's something after this, even if that something is nothing. Just as, when you were a kid, the words "you're it" made the person, and whatever it was you chased. Didn't you? All afternoon. For years until dusk told you the trees were getting sleepy. Soon you were in your pajamas, sticking your arm out the window into the night, wondering if your hand would come back. It did and will every time but once. From the Georgia Review. A Democratic Vista by Daniel Hoffman. The poets were speaking at the symposium on poetry and the national purpose, attended by many in the crowd, many poets and lovers of poetry and many lovers of poets, while one of the poets, the one I'll call the poet, was telling the crowd, especially the members thereof, who themselves were in fact not poets, that nothing is as significant as poets, for it is poets who are the prophets of the race, as well as its analysts. Yes, its analysts who notice not only what has happened and is happening to the race, but announce beforehand what is going to happen. That isn't all. They make it happen. They change your lives while, as I say, the poet was saying all this, and the crowded crowd was brought to the verge of cheers while he was chanting the terrific openness of the ego. Like a continent uncontained by the roiling steel breakers of any sea, he celebrates the openness of the great variety counter as plenitudinous as appetites, making of everything the ingredients for a possible. Though unexampled ingestion, whether of delight, disgust, or what for others would be terror, like the knowledge of his own death, which becomes only one layer in his hero sandwich, surrounded with relish by the cries of the suffering, the outcasts, the whores, the battle losers, and the captains of wrecked ships, all equally in the feast, and of the feast and as the feast, with the color green, the shouts of victors, and the amorous bodies of young men. You might not think so, but it proved that this unmetered, and immeasurable readiness to keep from being fenced in by anything, by being the self that does the including, excluding, nothing but tragedy. This is the American way. The camarado for whom he waits at the end of the long road, says Nos. The children spawned in the open nets of his liberties. Between his long spiels, it's we who pick up our tickets at the throughway toll booths, erect new shopping centers in the interstices of his strophes up to the future, growing older while his leaves rattle in the wind. We turn the page to see his democratic vision, vista. Never was there more hollowness of the heart. The underlying principles of the states are not honestly believed in, nor is humanity itself believed in. He told us before, a century and a half brought us to the future. I believed in saying, I know nothing grander, more positive, more proof of the past, the triumphant result of faith in humankind than a well-contested American national election, a sentiment we perhaps had better leave open-ended. From the New Criterion.